Tonight on Global TV News Prime, former late President Muhammadu Buhari for burial Tuesday as mourners throng his Daura residence. In business, federal government reaffirms commitments to gas-powered economy. On the foreign scene, Cameroon's Paul Biya, 92, announces bid for another term. In sport, Falcons leads Nigerian sports tributes to late former President Muhammadu Buhari. Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to News Prime on Global Television. Coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja, I am Uyi Agbofwegbe, reminding our viewers that we are on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Tonight, let's begin by telling you, Katsina State Governor Diko Rada says the burial of late former President Muhammadu Buhari will take place tomorrow, Tuesday, in his hometown of Daura, following his death in a London hospital on Sunday, July 13, 2025. Hundreds of mourners, including family, friends, neighbors, and top government officials, have continued to visit the late former president's residence, remember him as a humble, disciplined, and generous leader who maintained close ties with his community throughout his lifetime. Despite tight security in Daura, commercial activities remained largely unaffected, while prominent visitors such as Katsina State Deputy Governor Farouk Jobe and APC party leaders paid respects ahead of the burial. The death of late former President Muhammadu Buhari has reverberated in Nigeria and across the world, with tributes pouring in from leaders home and abroad. From President Bola Tinubu to past-serving political leaders across various spheres, landmark moments in the life of the late former Nigeria leader have continued to be highlighted. Beyond Nigeria, governments around the world, including China, have also condoled with the Buhari family, Nigeria, and her people. Our special feature on the late former president brings you highlights of his life and times in office. For a man who began his career as a soldier, becoming a military and a democratically elected president are both considered monumental feats.
The Supreme Military Council met yesterday and after an exhaustive deliberation approved your appointments as military governors for the 19 states of the Federation.
That was Muhammadu Buhari about 4 decades ago as a military head of state, inaugurating military governors following the 1983 coup. He later would spend 2 years leading what a section of Nigerians today refer to as the war against indiscipline under military government. Buhari was born on December 17, 1942 in Daura, Katsina State. He joined the Nigerian Army in 1961 and rose through the ranks, eventually leading the country as a military head of state from 1983 to 1985, a period during which he launched a nationwide anti-corruption and discipline campaign, earning him a reputation for tough leadership. Following decades in public service and several attempts at the presidency, Buhari made history in 2015 when he was elected a civilian president under the All Progressives Congress (APC), becoming the first opposition candidate to defeat an incumbent in Nigeria's political history. He was re-elected in 2019 and served 2 terms, focusing on fighting corruption, improving infrastructure, and tackling insecurity across the country. President Buhari's time in office saw the expansion of rail projects, social investment programs, and public sector reforms, including the Treasury Single Account (TSA). 2015, early success against Boko Haram. Buhari is elected president of Nigeria in 2015 on a pledge to defeat Boko Haram jihadists. 2 months after he was sworn in, he sacked the military top brass inherited from his predecessor, Goodluck Jonathan, and galvanized regional support against the jihadists. 2019 disputed election. In February of that year, Buhari was re-elected with 56% of the votes. The opposition cried foul. His main rival, Atiku Abubakar, challenged the results, which were validated in court in September. Buhari unveiled his new government in August of same year. 2020 coronavirus protest. In March, the capital Abuja and economic hub Lagos were locked down as part of measures to fight the coronavirus pandemic. The lockdown was eased in May, while a curfew remained in place.
Whoever thought that there has been some form of injustice on him, we are all humans. There is no doubt I hurt some people, and I wish they would pardon me. And those that think that I have hurt them so much, please pardon me.
As the Daura-born retired general and former civilian president exits this world, Nigerians will continue to assess his impact on the basis of the legacy he now leaves behind. Uyi Agbomofobe for Global TV News. In the meantime, the federal government has declared Tuesday, July 15, 2025, a public holiday in honor of the late former President Muhammadu Buhari. Minister of Interior Dr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo announced the holiday on behalf of the federal government following the approval of President Bola Tinubu. The declaration comes as part of ongoing 7-day national mourning period earlier announced by the President to pay tribute to Buhari's life and legacy. The National Assembly has officially suspended all legislative activities until Tuesday, July 22nd, as a mark of respect for the late former President Muhammadu Buhari, whose death was announced on Sunday. A statement signed by the clerk to the National Assembly, Kamoru Ogulano, says President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, and Speaker of the House of Representatives, Abbas Tajuddin, jointly agreed on the suspension to allow members fully participate in national mourning and burial preparations. Lawmakers have been directed to reschedule all official private engagements during the period of mourning as the nation pays tributes to one of its most consequential post-military leaders. On behalf of President Bola Tinubu, Vice President Kashif Shettima, upon arrival in London, has met and condoled with the family of late former President Muhammadu Buhari. The Vice President also visited the late former President's nephew, Malam Maman Daura, who is recuperating in a London hospital. The condolence visits were conducted while the Vice President awaited the conclusion of procedures and documentation for the repatriation of the former late President Buhari's body to Nigeria. In a related development, Nigerians have described late former President Muhammadu Buhari as a leader whose life was defined by service, discipline, and a commitment to restore integrity to public office. Some Nigerians who spoke to our correspondent, Obon Usoro, praised him for his fight against corruption, simplicity, and love for country.
Former Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari died in London after a long illness. He served as president from 2015 to 2023. And earlier as a military head of state from 1983 to 1985. In an interview, Nigerians reacted to the passing of the immediate past President Muhammadu Buhari, saying the entire country has been thrown into a state of mourning, adding that being a two-term president is one of Buhari's greatest legacies.
Seriously, when I heard the news, I was so sad. I'm not really happy. He's our leader, he's our former president. You know, the military head of state. That time, there's a policy that he brought that we all enjoy, and there's some policy he brought that we all sad. It's a very sad one for all of us Nigerians. You know, many people may have their own side of the story about Muhammadu Buhari, but for me, he's a very good man.
They also described Buhari as a very good man who will be missed while highlighting the N-Power scheme as one of his major achievements.
We know him with his disciplinary record, who against indiscipline that he introduced to Nigeria, which reshaped the minds of Nigerians.
I really want to say I'm sorry for the great loss to the Buhari's family, because nobody is perfect. In every government, there's always the good and the bad.
Death is actually so inevitable, and he is quite old. He has done his bit, he has tried his best for Nigeria, and I just send my deepest condolences to the family and to Nigerians. I pray that his soul rests in peace.
As Nigerians reflect on the life and leadership of Muhammadu Buhari, many agree that his legacy, whether praised or criticized, has left a lasting mark on the nation's history. Ubong Usoro for Global TV.
Oh, thank you, Ubong. Tributes have continued to pour in for late former President Muhammadu Buhari from global and national figures, including Amina Mohammed, Akinwumi Adesina, Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi, Femi Otedola, and others who praised his unwavering discipline, patriotism, and decades-long service to Nigeria. The All Progressives Congress, APC, describes the late Buhari as an iconic patriot and resilient leader, while opposition parties like the PDP acknowledged his discipline and courage as both a soldier and a statesman. The late former president, who led Nigeria as a military ruler from 1984 to 1985 and as a democratic leader between 2015 and 2023, was remembered for his principled leadership and lifelong dedication to the nation. Similarly, former Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo has described the death of late former President Muhammadu Buhari as the passing of a true patriot, a disciplined public servant, and a man who exemplified moral clarity and national commitment throughout his lifetime. In a personally signed statement, Osinbajo reflected on the 8 years he served alongside late Buhari, noting that their shared service to Nigeria was marked by tough decisions, policy reforms, and moments of national reflection. He offered prayers for the repose of the late president's soul and extended condolences to his widow, Aisha Buhari, their children, and all Nigerians mourning the loss of a former commander-in-chief whose legacy will continue to shape civic leadership in Nigeria. The Nigeria Governors Forum has expressed deep grief over the passing of late former President Muhammadu Buhari, describing it as a monumental loss not only to Nigeria but to the African continent. In a statement signed by the forum's chairman and governor of Kwara State, Abdulrahman Abdulrazak, the governors described Buhari as one of Africa's most revered leaders whose dedication to public duty and modest lifestyle stood him out as a statesman of rare caliber. The forum also extended condolences to President Tinubu, the Buhari family, and the people of Katsina State, while calling on Nigerians to reflect on the legacy of service, sacrifice, and discipline that defined the life of the late leader. President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, has stressed the need to reposition National Youth Council of Nigeria to become a more credible, inclusive, and strategic voice for Nigerian youth. The President of the Senate was represented by his special advisor on Niger Delta Affairs, Jeff Oyeme, stated this at the National Youth Council of Nigeria retreats in Abuja. Our correspondent Kabir Hassan has details.
With a team repositioning the National Youth Council of Nigeria for national impact and youth-driven development, the President of the Senate says repositioning Nigerian youth is a key component of President Bola Tinubu's renewed hope agenda. He says the retreat will help strengthen the role of the youth as a bridge within Take Two. He says the retreat will help strengthen the role of youth as a bridge with the government, thereby amplifying government effort and engaging youth in nation building.
The problem of Nigerians are the youth, and this government have youth in mind. Programs are coming up. The previous government that has been there, they will just come up and say youth will do this, will do that, without doing anything. And when you check about it, when you move around and see the crime rates and everything that is happening, most of them are the youth. Go to the IG, or you move to the different states and get your database from the CPs, the commissioners. You will find out that most of the thing that is happening is the youth. So we are coming up with a good mindset. We are coming up with programs. We are coming up, moving around to bring out the youth, let them believe there is still hope. And this current government, under the leadership of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, under the leadership of President of the Senate, which is President Godswill Akpabio, things are moving around. Just move.
The President, National Youth Council of Nigeria, Solomon Adodo, says the retreat is aimed at addressing the urgent need for reform, youth inclusion, and leadership renewal across all tiers of governance. He stressed the need for collaboration, innovation, and accountability to rebuild the council's integrity and impact, as well as strengthening the youth council structure at the local and state levels so as to identify a pathway for genuine grassroots development.
Your needs, what the president wants to do is to address these needs. If there is unemployment, how can we together articulate and solve it? Young men and women are involved in the insecurity challenges. How can we together nip this in the bud? Vast lands and no food. How can we ensure food security for our country? So the president has thrown a task on the youth of Nigeria that we should organize ourselves, we should articulate our challenges, and he is ready to address and attend to them.
As Nigerian youth population continues to rise, expectations are equally growing for council to transform into a more transparent, active and impact-driven institution. The retreat marks a potential turning point, one that could define a new era of youth-led transformation in Nigeria. Kabir Hassan reporting for Global TV.
Correspondent Kabir Hassan, thank you for your reporting tonight. Let's turn to other stories for you now. The Chief Executive Officer of Tide Hotel and Resorts, Ife Francis Shokoya, says it is possible to get a friendly and luxurious reception as a visitor in Nigeria. Ife Francis Shokoya made this revelation at the opening ceremony of Tide Hotel and Resorts in Abuja. Ramsey Enoch Agbo has more.
The Chief Executive Officer of Tide Hotel and Resort, Ife Francis Shokoya, described Tide as a global brand that will bridge the gaps in the hospitality business.
And I know that, having luxury, right, is possible. That having this kind of quality is possible, and that is what brought about this vision that we should create this lasting legacy that would give our customers, just like you're experiencing here today and other people, bold elegance. In our values, when we're talking about we're talking about being welcoming, loyal, the things that keep the customers and how they want to feel. That is the way we're going to sustain it, because when you do that, any customer any guest who comes here, would always keep coming back, and that's the experience that we want to keep. That's a legacy that we're driving towards.
Guests at the grand opening ceremony, after a tour of the facility, express how they feel about Tide Hotels and Resorts.
I'm going to recommend this to some of my colleagues because this is something that a whole lot of people are looking forward to. The location, it's really nice, and honestly, I'm going to recommend this on social media.
And I like the idea that each of the rooms has its own music and mood lighting, really, that you can tailor, individually, manually adjusted by you.
Tide Hotels and Resort is a brand that is positioned for both local and international customers, as the facility is equipped for a world-class luxury. Ramsey Enoch Agbo reporting for Global TV News.
This is Global Television. You're watching the live broadcast of News Prime with Uyi Agmofwebe. When the rest of the news returns shortly, Cameroon's Paul Biya, now 92 years, announces bid for another term. We'll have those details coming from the foreign scene as well as business and sports stories for you on the flip side of this break. Please do stay with us. We appreciate you staying with us tonight on the news. The second part of this broadcast now returns with business, where the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, Ekberikbe Ekbo, says the federal government, under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu, is committed to making Nigeria a gas-powered economy, having declared a decade of gas utilization. Ekbo stated this in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State capital, while giving his remarks at the South-South Gas Utilization Forum 2025, organized by Gas Aggregator Company Nigeria, with the theme utilizing gas as a catalyst for sustainable growth. The minister, who highlighted the benefits of a gas-powered economy, called on participants to see the workshop as a turning point where ideas are not just discussed but implemented. China's exports rose by 5.8% in June, surpassing economic forecasts as the country reached a tentative agreement with the United States to ease trade tensions and reduce mutual tariffs. Despite ongoing economic challenges, including a deteriorating property sector and sluggish consumer demand, Vision continues to rely on export strength to fuel recovery in the face of Trump-era trade policies and global uncertainty. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, has warned that $14.9 trillion in upstream oil investment is urgently needed between 2025 and 2050 to avert a global energy crisis and meet future demand. In its 2025 World Oil Outlook, the organization projects global demand rising to over 120 million barrels per day by 2050, up from 103.7 million barrels in 2024, and dismisses forecast of declining fossil fuel as unrealistic. And now let's move things to the foreign scene. Cameroon's longtime leader, President Paul Biya, has officially announced he will run for another term in office, ending months of speculation over his political future. The 92-year-old made the announcement on social media, stating his continued determination to serve and promising that the best is yet to come. Biya has been at the helm of Cameroon for over 40 years, making him the second longest-serving president in Africa. His decision to seek re-election has sparked criticism from opposition figures and human rights advocates. Well, that's quite a long time to be in power for. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has suspended Police Minister Senzo Mchunu after explosive allegations emerged linking him to organized crime networks and obstruction of justice in high-profile cases. In a televised national address, Ramaphosa announced the formation of a Judicial Commission of Inquiry and named law professor Firoz Kachilia as interim minister pending investigation. Mchunu, who denies any wrongdoing, is accused of interfering in probes involving political killings and internal police corruption, prompting what Ramaphosa described as an urgent and comprehensive national security response. The United States President Donald Trump is scheduled to meet Secretary General of the Northern Atlantic Treaty Organization and NATO, Mark Rutte, at the White House, where he is expected to deliver a major statement regarding new U.S. military support to Ukraine. The announcement follows reports that sophisticated American weapons will be sent to Kyiv as Ukraine's President Zelensky confirms productive talks with United States envoy Keith Kellogg amid ongoing war tensions. Well, just for the benefit of our viewers, the U.S. president has now given both countries, that is Russia and, the other country now, Zelensky, 50 days to resolve this crisis. Otherwise, it will be a different turn altogether. So we continue to follow that development for you. Now let's take you to sports, where we find some excitement as usual. Tributes to late former President Muhammadu Buhari have begun to pour in the Nigerian sports sector after the ex-helmsman of Nigeria died in a UK hospital at the age of 82. The Super Falcons led the way with a minute silence before the kickoff of their last WAFCON group game against Algeria in Casablanca, Morocco. The Falcons fouled out at the Larbi Zuli Stadium with the intent of ending their group stage campaign on a perfect note, and they began by honoring the late former president. That was brilliant. Barcelona have completed the signing of 19-year-old Swedish winger Rooney Bajie from FC Copenhagen on a 4-year deal, making him their second acquisition of the summer transfer window. Despite a serious knee injury that sidelined him for nearly a year, Bajie is expected to join the team for preseason, where manager Hans Flick will assess his readiness for the senior squad. Nigeria's Flying Eagles have stormed into the semi-finals of the 2025 WAFU Under-20 Boys Cup with a 4-1 win over Benin Republic, bouncing back from a nervy opening draw against Ghana. After conceding first, goals from Mohamed Abdullahi, Ezekiel Bangu, Imrana Mohamed and Abdullahi Majid sealed the dominant turnaround in Accra, with the team delaying and displaying superior tactical coordination in the first half. And now let's end News Prime tonight with a look at some of our big stories. Katsina State Governor Diko Rade says the burial of late former President Muhammadu Buhari will take place on Tuesday in his hometown of Daura following his death in a London hospital. Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, Ekberiko Ekpo, says the federal government under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu is committed to making Nigeria a gas-powered economy, having declared the decade of gas utilization. On the foreign scene, Cameroon's longtime leader, President Paul Biya, has officially announced he will run for another term in office, ending months of speculation over his political future. And finally, in sports, we told you tributes to the late former President Muhammadu Buhari have begun to pour in the Nigerian sports sector after the ex-henchman of the country died in a UK hospital at the age of 82. And that's how we end tonight's News Prime here on Global Television. A quick reminder that we are on DSTV channels 365 and Star Times 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms using @Global TV NG, as well as on the handles as you now see on your screen. I am Wiyag Mofwebe saying a big thank you to you for watching. We'll see you again.